The Internship. Okay, Bob. We
Oh,
both saw
here
the
we go.
Internship as your must-see movie for this week.
God damn it. Do you have to bring that up every time we talk about it? It's your reason, your fault that we saw this.
No, hey, I just this is what is important to see out there. We're not necessarily saying it's the best to see, but we
Right.
are going to talk about it. From IMDb, two salesmen whose careers have been torpedoed by the digital age find their way into a coveted internship at Google, where they must compete with a group of young tech-savvy geniuses for a shot at employment. Directed by Sean Levy, who did Real Steel and Night at the Museum. Written by Vince Vaughn and Jared Stern, and it's starring Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, and Rose Byrne. Did you mini review this movie, Bob?
I did. Let me give you my mini review. This is what I said. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. Vaughn and Wilson phone it in with a few laughs for ultimately disappointing story. For an ultimately disappointing story that is mostly contrived with hypocritical undertones of "it's tough out there for college grads even if you're the best," joined with "faking it is a winning strategy if you try hard enough." That's my review.
All right. Get any buzz?
Yeah, on this one, the only buzz I got was like, yeah, I pretty much nailed what I thought you would think of it, Bob, which is just kind of rubbing it in my face. Here, let me see if
Well,
I can pull up exactly how it was said. So it wasn't as good as your IT friends thought. Looks like I won the imaginary bet with myself. Great.
uh, well, so I mean, there were reasons to be a little bit hopeful, but it was ultimately disappointing, I guess, is the
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
it really was.
So I did a mini review too, just
Look,
cuz, and
yeah, I want to
here's
hear
mine.
yours.
The Internship, 2 out of 5. Um, Basically, here's what I said. A lot better and more charming before they watered it down and changed the name from Legally Blonde.
I love it. It's so
I,
true because Legally Blonde had the same formulistic approach and had its issues, but it was a lot more charming.
yeah. So these people who don't really qualify get into this place of smart people who are like brains on a toothpick without any lives. In her case, it was Harvard Law School. Um, but but yeah. I don't know where to even begin. I've got a couple questions to sort of guide us here. Feel free to jump in
Okay.
with any of your own. Let's talk about the plausibility of the story here, Bob. Now, what did you think of the story? These two salesmen. Now, were they good salesmen, Bob? They were awfully broke for being such great salesmen.
Yeah, it seems like they were good, and the movie just wanted to portray that the economic times were so hard that salesmen are the first to be hurt in some way because the movie played up a few times just how important it is that these skills can still be relevant even if not as directly as they used to be as pure salesman jobs. So I think they were good, and I think that's plausible. Sure, good salesmen are out of work, and their one type of skill isn't enough to make them competitive out there. So that part is plausible. But then, you
So they
know,
go to the internship at Google. For one, they get the internship at Google, which is,
right.
yeah, but okay, fine. Then they fake bluff and bullshit their way through it. It's not like they kicked ass, was it?
Right, and they do this like Google Hangout like we're doing now as part of their interview, and they're like, "Can you see us? Oh, how do we look at a camera?" And the Google people interviewing them are like, "Who are these weirdos that don't know technology?" But then at the end, they get in because of a technicality of like, "Oh, well, we want diversity, and that includes stupid people too." You know,
Right. And it reminds me of Legally Blonde. When they look at her audition video, I just remember one of the few lines I remember because it's been forever. But they say, "Well, she does have a 4.0," but they, uh,
right?
but they,
She's like in a bikini at the pool or something.
but they can't even say, "Well, these guys at least have a 4.0 or anything even similar to that." So it's hard for me to believe they got it. So is it plausible? I mean, I guess we'll try to do this mostly spoiler free, but um, yeah, like I say, they fake bluff and bullshit their way through it. Did you find the ending um, plausible?
No, and even before the ending, I'll say a couple of other areas where one aspect was plausible, and then the next they took it to the next level, which was totally not plausible. So the whole point is that there's a bunch of interns vying for the same position, and there's too many people and not enough spots, so they pair off, or they not pair off, but they create teams, and of course, Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson's characters are left at the end. Nobody wants to pick them. It's like that's pretty stereotypical. That's plausible. So then they become a team of misfits with all the other rejects who don't get picked, and then all we see a focus on is the team that's really sharp and excelling, and they just so happen to be assholes too. And then we see this team that's just a bunch of misfits, as if like the two extremes in life in terms of a bunch of people competing for one job are the really smart assholes and then the really smart misfits. And so, is that plausible? Not really.
Yeah, I mean that sort of takes me to, so what's the message it's trying to say here? Like, if you're smart, you will have zero people skills, you'll have zero life experience, and you'll be an asshole, or you'll be a salesman.
Yeah, like really mixed messaging here. I didn't know where to go either. And is it just me, or are Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson done? It's really hard for me to say this, but gosh, they're just not what they used to be. It's like the new crop of comedians need to come in, movie star comedians, whatever this category of actor is, because they rarely do anything serious.
Well, they certainly did not try to prove you wrong with this movie, that's for sure.
I mean, because Vince Vaughn really tries to rely on his fast-talking, look how cool and hip I am with my off-the-cuff, rattle off this, rattle off. And then Owen Wilson has this charming, slow, slurred speech, I look from the side. And they're both like themselves, and I used to love them both as these guys that I thought were funny. But now, like, dude, I've seen it all. Everything they did, I've already seen, and it was better the first time. And maybe they should stop if they don't have anything else left.
Yeah, it's sort of sad that's the takeaway from here. Yeah, Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson are done. So let me ask you this question, Bob. Was it funny?
It was sometimes. It did have a fair amount of laughs, but unfortunately the laughs were overshadowed by everything else we've talked about. But I laughed several times, and the ensemble cast was over the top, and caricatures, that weren't really that interesting, but they did provide laughs a few different times, and so.
Yeah, I'll agree. It wasn't that I spent the whole time not laughing. It's just that the flaws were so glaring that they made me take a step back. I will say that of the very minor characters, I sort of enjoyed watching Josh Gad. I thought I didn't realize it was him at first, and it's like, oh, that's Elder Cunningham.
That's right.
The Warman, and he was, I don't know, he had a funny line at the end there.
Yeah, he was almost the most caricature of characters, like.
Right, that's true.
But he did a good job. It was fun seeing him.
All right, so you gave it 2.5 stars. I went down a little bit lower to 2 stars, just thinking, man, if we were thinking about 3 stars-ish being 2.5, 3 stars being where, at least it's not a waste of time, I want to put it a little lower than that. Yeah, if you see this, you're wasting your time, you should see something else.
Right, yeah, that's fair. My cutoff is 3 stars, as it's worth seeing a movie as much as any other movie, but not in the top or the best. And then I gave it 2.5 because I did enjoy the laughs, and the googly factor. I really wanted that to win me over, and maybe that's that extra half a star for me, because I actually really liked the closing credits, but that was like 20 seconds worth of film time. So,
well, hey, do you know how involved was Google in this? Because it almost seemed like an advertisement for Google.
it really did, and they were pretty involved. I mean, a lot of it was filmed on their campus, not all of it, but and there was a cameo by the CEO at the end of the movie. I don't know if you noticed, or that's just a nerd thing to notice.
Eric Schmidt?
No, not Schmidt. It was Larry Page.
Oh, I guess I don't know what he looks like, probably.
Okay, yeah, and he didn't have much to say. It was just like one line as Vince Vaughn was like doing his victory lap around, and yay! Oh wait, I'm not supposed to spoil. Sorry,
you just
spoiler
ruined
free.
this movie, Bob.
I mean, anything's possible with the ending of this movie. But Larry Page comes out as the CEO at the end, and other than the Google helpline scene, which maybe didn't help Google that much, but was kind of slapstick anyway. It was just like one ginormous ad for Google, and I don't know. Maybe that should bug me or not. I'm kind of neutral on that. In the end, I was hoping I'd be like, oh, cool, I know Google more than other people, or there's lots of inside nerd Google jokes, but really it was like the closing credits was cool, and that was it.
All right. Okay, well, there you go. Don't see
Don't
it.
see the movie.